All right, super. We can start.
All right.
All right, so yeah, just obviously, if you could just remind us your name and how old you are and where you're from in Mongolia.
So my name is Chingun. I'm currently 19 years old, and I am from Irkut. Yeah.
Born and raised in Erdenet.
Born and raised, represent.
Nice. Excellent. Cool. All right, so I mean, first of all, as well, we can let people know, try to inspire them on that front as well. Where did you learn how to speak English?
Growing up, my parents were like very busy, right? So they left the TV on and me alone at home. And I used to watch like a lot of cartoons, right? So like Samurai Jack, X-Men, Spider-Man, and all Batman anime series. I'm sure you watched that, right?
Yeah.
It's a classic. And that's where I got my base, I guess. And then afterwards, they noticed me like speaking a certain level of English. Then afterwards, they sent me into like a course and stuff like that. Then afterwards, I developed further.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So from what age would you say that you started?
Oh, I would say like 4, 5, perhaps.
Nice. Okay, great. Yeah, your English is amazing. So I think that's a great lesson, I think, for a lot of people as well. A lot of sort of, not just young Mongolians, but anyone who's starting to learn English, is to really kind of practice consistently and just kind of, engage with things and topics that you enjoy, right? So like comics and etc.
I would say like starting late is better than starting never, and being consistent.
Absolutely, I really agree. Just like anything in life, right? Yeah.
True.
Better late than never. You're never too old to do anything, except maybe the army, right? There's definitely an age limit for joining the army.
I remember 25, 26, perhaps. Then afterwards, they stopped sending you conscription papers.
What about if a Mongolian sort of male citizen wanted to join the army as an enlisted soldier?
Sure.
What's the age limit?
Like starting at 18. I think the same age limit perhaps applies too. But anyone above the age of 18 is free to go to the sergeant school, which is probably next to National Defense University.
In Ulaanbaatar?
Yeah, in Ulaanbaatar. I think it's near Ulaanbaatar. Yeah.
So is this in like downtown Ulaanbaatar?
I would say in like outskirts, perhaps, far from the downtown.
Okay. And what's the difference between the sergeant school and sort of another military academy or anything else?
Well, the National Defense University, you study 4 years, get your bachelor's in, let's say, infantry, artillery, or whatever, and then you become an officer. In the sergeant school, you learn like other military skills, perhaps like rifleman or tank driver, artillery mechanic, auto mechanic, and stuff like that. Like skills that are only like applicable in the military.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So you basically it's this kind of like non-commissioned officer training as opposed to the officer training.
Yeah, basically that, like you said.
Okay, excellent stuff. Okay, right, that's interesting. And so obviously we're here to talk about your personal experience, about your military service. So just to quickly introduce the topic, there's a Universal Military Service Act, or a Military Service Act, here in Mongolia, which makes a 1-year military service compulsory for all male citizens aged between 18 and 25.
Yes.
So why does Mongolia have this law? Why do they have a conscription?
From what I read so far, in 1921, after the Civil Revolution, the Great Warrior Squatter basically proposed that all male citizens should possess military knowledge in case of outside threats should ever threaten the nation.
Okay, excellent. And that makes a lot of sense. It's just that, for people that are maybe going to listen to this that are located in sort of Western Europe or even the States, there's no longer any conscription program, right? It's just it's a professional
Well,
army.
I mean, in like, let's say the Korean War, World War II, and Vietnam, they had the drafting system, which I would assume was probably similar.
Absolutely. Yeah. They made it. They kind of abandoned these kinds of programs as I think after the Vietnam experience, right?
True, but there are like very few countries who still have the mandatory service system today. So, for example, us, South Korea, obviously, and North Korea, obviously, and maybe some other nations, perhaps. I think Greece has the same system too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Turkey as well. There are a few countries out there, like you said, those that are sort of in a situation where they see external threats, right? Other
Yeah,
countries as sort of threatening their sovereignty.
which obviously, wait, I forgot. Yeah, Israel has one too, but the difference being women also get conscripted.
So do women get conscripted here in Mongolia as well?
Not really. They have the option to become an officer or enlisted, or work as a civilian contractor in the bases.
And this is the same sort of, I guess, part of the same program. So between the ages of 18 and 25, or is it a totally different sort of
Yeah, I would
proposition?
say it's pretty much the same.
Interesting. Yeah, this is an interesting fact that I noted during my research is that 20% of the total personnel of the armed forces in Mongolia are women.
Yeah, pretty much. We support women who are serving.
I mean, why do you think that is? I mean, in other armies around the world, except maybe for Israel and sort of, I guess, a few other countries, there aren't as many women, right, in the service.
Yeah. Well, women have always been like a part of the army. You'd say like sport or whatever. And even since like dating back to early 20th century, women have been part of the army. And nowadays, they have even more support from the army to serve. Even in the peacekeeping way, there, God, more support from the United Nations for women to serve in the peacekeeping duty.
Yes, I saw some pictures of, female Mongolian soldiers in places like Africa, right?
Yeah.
Central African Republic and so on. It's impressive stuff. Have you spoken to any of these women? Like, do they come on the base? Do they take part in the training?
Our like head chef, right, actually served in peacekeeping duty in South Sudan, and she told me her experiences.
So is it a sort of a mixed environment, or was she the kind of only woman and she would show up during, I guess, meal times?
It's mixed actually. There are women in infantry support and like all kinds of things. I would say the women are equally capable than men in our army.
And would you say, like, I mean, a quick sort of word or piece of advice or information for any Mongolian women that would like to or thinking of joining the army? Are they kind of, how are they treated? Is it a sort of
Well,
good environment?
I would say think very hard, right? The army life isn't very easy, but if you have truly decided to become a military person, I would say the door is open for you. There's no misogyny or whatever.
Excellent. Yeah. Oh, that's great. And you would say that, would you sort of say that it's a good career for a young Mongolian woman to join the army? And
I would say tough, but if you can hold yourself well, then the opportunity to progress further is open for everyone.
that's great. That's good. That's really, really good to hear. Okay, so the next part is about, how old you were when you were conscripted.
Well, I was 19. Actually, funny story though. My parents took me to this fortune teller, right? And she told fortunes with cards, right? Like after putting her cards down, she basically said, "Okay, when you turn 19, right, your life will change drastically, and you will choose a path that you've never thought of before, and you will progress even further." And then, funny enough, like after I turned 19, like not only a week afterwards, my draft papers came. Isn't that funny?
Yeah. Well, I think she's a legit fortune teller, man. You should give me her number.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go.
like legitimately surprised me,
Uh-huh.
and I thought about it a lot when I was in service, and I legitimately she might have been like a real fortune teller because it actually happened. I never thought I would join the army, and I never even thought that I would love it.
Yeah. Is this kind of is this fortune teller this kind of like a shaman, or is it a different type of
Like
person?
she had the whole gypsy
Hmm.
thing, right? The whole head wraps and stuff, the earrings and stuff. You know?
Right. Okay. So a real, yeah, like a proper shaman style.
Yeah, the only thing that was probably missing was the crystal ball. Right?
Oh, she had a crystal ball, huh?
The only thing that was missing.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. No, but that's. I think the crystal ball is a sign that they're like phony, you know.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Yeah. After the interview, you can give me her number. I'll
I
go
don't
visit.
know her number, but if you want, I could like get it for you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Super. All right, keeping on track. So you were 19 when you were conscripted, and how did the whole process start?
Well, first of all, your draft papers come to your address, and then you go there with your personal ID and stuff like that. If you're studying university, your university papers, sometimes they let you go off if you're studying in university, which is what happened to me the year before. And that year they said no, and just drafted me. And I said, and I wanted to get off, but realizing that the mandatory service would become 2 years starting from this October, I said, just screw it. I want to go become infantry.
Okay. And did you have to sort of organize your dossier, like your documents, or were they organized for you?
Well, obviously, I would like organize my own stuff. It's not like I have someone to do it for me.
Right, yeah. So they don't just pull it for you, like you have to just put everything together and then show up at the registration office
Yeah,
with all
pretty
that.
much.
Okay. All right. And what happens on that day? I mean, do you show up? First of all, where is it? Like, what kind of building is it?
Well, you get processed at your local military staff, and the process is usually organized in somewhere with a lot of space. So, for example, like a gym of a high school. For us, it was in a dorm of a vocational school, college, right? And we show up, we show our documents, then we get into like a short medical examination, right? Like X-rays, blood pressures, and stuff like that. And then urinal examination, stuff like that.
Okay. And how many people were with you during this process?
I would say like almost 100, maybe 200. I don't know. There were a lot.
And what was the mood like? Was everyone a bit depressed and like kind of not happy to be
Obviously, you're living free, and then the country tells you you're gonna sacrifice 1 year of a life doing something you don't want to do in a place you don't want to be. But obviously, no one's gonna like that. And then imagine there's like 100 or 200 naked guys just stand there with their papers, thinking to themselves, "God damn." The whole thing was like that.
And how long did that sort of like onboarding process last for?
I would say almost 30 minutes, 40, somewhere around that. Maybe even now, I can't recall.
That's pretty quick. And so after you've passed all these sort of examinations, medical examinations, fitness tests, what happens?
They took us to the central hospital for some other medical examinations. So, like blood tests, x-rays, and stuff like that.
And at what point do they kind of give you the results? Like, whether you have to join or whether you're kind of sort of rejected for
It
medical
took
reasons?
like almost a week. One of my buddies came with me to the army, and he left like a week afterwards because he didn't had some internal organ issues. I remember, and that's how he left.
So you're actually, I guess, conscripted and taken to the base before even your medical results sort of come in, right?
Yeah, pretty
That's
much.
interesting. Okay. And at what point did you get a chance to choose what you wanted to do? So you said, okay, infantry, that's what you would like to do, but do you then get to choose exactly what like specialty you go into?
Well, sometimes they just don't ask you right where you will be going, and sometimes they ask you. But even then, I think it doesn't even matter.
Okay, fair enough. And so what did you want to do specifically? What did you request?
Well, I wanted to become infantry. Like that's what a legitimate soldier would do. They run, they shoot.
And what about like the people around you? What was the general sort of idea or request? What were they? Were they also in agreement with you? They wanted to join the infantry, or were the other people wanting to join some other service?
They probably just wanted to get out of there. Like, to be honest though, the first option would have been for me was to get out of there also. But think, like, you're sacrificing 1 year of your life to be in the army, do whatever you don't want to do, right? Like, nobody wants that, obviously. If the first option for me was to leave, then I would have taken that. But if I had to go, I would have chosen infantry.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But kind of coming back to what you were saying earlier, you were at university at the time, right? So couldn't you have just kind of given that as an excuse?
Well, I could have, but then again, there might have been something that year, like some order that came down from the upper branches that just said, just pull everyone, regardless if they're studying or not.
Okay. Do you know what the reason was for that? Because I mean, I guess usually they would kind of let you finish your studies, right, and then pressure you or force you to join.
I don't know, to be honest. It's not something that everyone knows. It is what it is, you know.
Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to go through the program of student soldiers, but they said that it was canceled that year because of COVID. So I just chose the mandatory service.
So I guess at this point, your only option to not join the service would have been to like flee the country, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And this is like one of my advice I would give someone, right? If you are living in a foreign country, unless you like legitimately, truly want to go through your mandatory service, I would say don't come back, right? Until you're like 25, 26.
Oh, right. So you can come back just after that period of sort of the upper limit, right?
Yeah, at that point, your papers will probably stop coming.
Right. Okay. Interesting. You won't be sort of blacklisted as some sort of deserter or traitor to your country.
Yeah, because you're in a foreign country, then for whatever reason you're there, then how are you going to come back?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. And so were any of your friends, like close friends, maybe from university or high school, also getting conscripted at the same time as you?
Like, there were like 3 of my high school friends that got conscripted, right? 2 of them are actually still serving in the same unit. And one of them, was, like I said before, got off because of medical reasons.
And were you kind of like you were able to kind of hang out and communicate on a daily basis during your experience?
Yeah, one of my friends actually came out on leave. So they grant you like a maximum of 3-day leave. He came out on 24-hour leave and came to visit me on my base.
All right, excellent. Is that quite common, like friends visiting each other sort of between bases, between units?
Sometimes.
Nice. That's really cool, right? That's nice to have friendly faces around during your time there.
Yeah, and we spent like 5 to 10 minutes just basically looking at each other laughing because we were both bald.
Right. So at what point do you get your head shaved off, like sort of Full Metal Jacket style?
First day, like the moment you come, right? I had like very long hair, right? It was probably around my shoulders, probably past my shoulders actually. And my CEO was the one who shaved me off, and he saw me and looked, oh boy, am I lucky? And it kind of shocked me to see my head being bald. I just kind of stood there for a solid minute, look at him, at my bald head, and said, "Oh boy, this is where we begin." And then he told me to piss off.
So you felt a little bit upset, right, of losing that your long hair, right?
Yeah, but in hindsight, I'm glad that I lost it because it like took me 2 washes to entirely clean my hair right. Like the first wash was to clean off the oil, the second one for like actually wash it. And I would say it's more economically better option because now I just get to wash it once. Oh, I don't even wash it sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think it's healthier, right? More hygienic and
Yeah,
less maintenance.
much more neat looking, right?
Yeah, exactly. And also, you can save money instead of going to the hairdresser all the time, right?
Yeah.
You can just do it yourself. You don't need any particular skill really to use clippers on your own
Yeah,
head.
that's one of the advantages I would say.
Yeah. Excellent stuff. All right, so yeah, I guess that was a bit of a shock, right? And so, just coming back to like your friends, high school friends, etc. Right before you joined the army, when you were in high school or even at university, did you and your sort of male friends talk about military service?
Yeah, it came up like once or twice, right? And usually what we said was, "Oh shit, how am I gonna handle this?" Right? Because none of us legitimately wanted to go. But it is what it is. Like one of my childhood buddy had no intention of going to the army, and on my 19th birthday we met up. And he said, "My papers came. My mom is gonna send me." And then he went to like the east border unit, and I texted and talked with him like a few days ago, and I asked him how it was going, and he said it was the only thing he told me was, "Please get me out of here. I hate it here."
Oh no. What like did he give any other reasons after that? After that, or
The
anything?
only thing he said was, "Please get me out of
Oh
here."
no. And if you had to guess, like why is he having such a bad time?
Like I said before, you're living your free life, and then your papers come, and for an entire year you're forced to do something you don't want to do, in a place where you don't want to be, with people who you don't want to be. Right?
Right. That's fair enough, but I mean, you got used to it, right? And you ended up really enjoying it, and you want to actually make it sort of like your career. So, what's the difference between you and him? You think?
Well, I would say he got already had plans for his life, to become an architect and just to live his free life of being young and stuff. And for me, I was very lost. I knew I wanted to become a IT person, but I had no idea like what I exactly wanted to do. Was I supposed to like be in a civilian job? Was I think supposed to like do a 9 to 5 job in an office making somebody else's money, right? Or did I wanted to do something much more meaningful? I was lost, and I would say the army basically gave me purpose.
And that's great, and I think it could give purpose to a lot of people that are in your situation, right?
I would say.
Yeah. So you would recommend it to anyone really, not even just people who are lost, right? But especially to people who are kind of just, yeah, struggling to make a decision on their future careers.
Yeah, I would say like when you enlist or become an officer, you have like a 3 to 5 year contract, and afterwards you're free to do whatever you want. You could make a living out of the army, or maybe like do something else. I would say the mandatory service is gives things that a lot of young men today need, like personal discipline, and like inner strength. I would say endurance, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you need that sort of these skills to have a strong base and I guess to increase your chances of future success in life as well.
Yeah, true. It's they basically teach you whatever qualities a man should possess, which a lot of the we lack. Right?
And I guess also you can learn some skills in the army that you could then use, in a practical sense in civilian life. So your friend who wants to become an architect, maybe he could learn. There is architecture, I guess, linked to the army, right? You have to build a
Yeah.
base, you have to build different sort of military structures, right?
The like combat engineers, right?
Hmm.
We are usually we are usually the ones who are participating in the national development projects. So let's say roads, like civilian buildings, stuff like that. I think that could apply as well. Like even for me, I learned how to make cement, make blocks, and do like interior work. And like down the line, I might need these skills. So I appreciate what I've learned.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not time wasted, right?
Yeah,
Excellent. That's really good to hear. And it's a bit of a shame. I think a lot of people, back home, youngsters would really do well or would really benefit from going through such an experience. So I think it's great that in Mongolia you do have this program like this conscription.
true. And like culturally too, it is like a part of you would say like a rite of passage, for young men. So like for example in Greece in ancient Spartan times, where boys would like fight and become soldiers, it was seen as like a passage from becoming from a child to a man. For us, the mandatory service is something like that too. And you could like look up on YouTube. There are like very old songs about mandatory service and boys becoming soldiers. It is like a very important part of our culture, I would say.
Yeah, that's a really good thing in my opinion, and I agree. And what about like your sort of teachers and academic staff, either at your high school or at your university? Did they mention anything about conscription?
My high school classroom teacher, right? He finished his mandatory service, and he didn't like tell me much about it, right? And he just basically told me he served, and I asked him how was it, and he said it is what it is. He did his thing, and now he's out.
Fair enough. And what about your parents and family members? Did they speak with you about conscription before you experienced it?
My mom was actually nervous because of my server papers right came right because she was nervous that what would happen to me, right? She was very, very nervous, right? He's just a boy. Like, how is he gonna come out all right? But dad basically said, "Well, it is what it is. It's it's part of growing up. Well, since you couldn't make it to Japan, anyways, just go for it, But I wouldn't advise it. And when I actually went to the base, my parents were very shocked because they wouldn't think that I would serve. Like I personally, I never basically got out of my computer line. Oh, I never even went outside. So for a person like that to go to the army, it probably shocked them. But like afterwards, they said they were proud of me for going through with it. On my father's side, I'm the second person to have finished the military service, and then on my mother's side, I'm the third person.
Right. Can you tell us more about your relatives on either side that served?
On my dad's side, my uncle served back in the 80s in the same branch too, which is surprising. And then my on my mother's side, my uncle and great uncle served. They were both border patrols. The toughest unit too, actually.
Okay, so can you just explain the different types of, you don't have to go into like detail because I understand that there is maybe some sensitive information involved, right? So, but in a general sense, explain the different types of units that are in the Mongolian Armed Forces.
Well, so there are like few separate like forces, right? So there's army, border patrol, judicial execution, and national guard. National guard actually belongs to the police. So police, and I think I'm missing something here, but yeah. So pretty much these four, and the army basically branches into five different branches, right? So infantry, engineering, corps, engineering corps, and special forces, air force, and cybersecurity. As of now,
Okay. And so, you don't have to tell me the exact unit either, but like which branch were you in then in the infantry?
I was I was in infantry. I was engineering.
Okay. Okay. Excellent stuff. Interesting. And I guess great place to learn a lot of really useful skills, right? That you
Yeah, I
can-
would say it. We branch out to even the civilian sector too.
So just quickly, just to delve into your kind of your relatives' experiences. So your uncle on your father's side was in the engineering corps
Yeah,
during the 80s.
Yeah.
So you were in the same unit, I guess, doing similar things. But how did your experiences compare?
well, he was first corporal, which is like far above rank, and was the political worker in his platoon, which at the time is a very important position. Then again, it was the socialist era, so like doing political work for the party was very important. Funny fact, like, do you know the previous president, Torch, right?
I don't know. Is
Let
this
me-
the wrestler or the judo
No, that
professional?
was the previous one, the one before him, right? I think I'll show you a picture and see if you can recall. This dude right here.
I've seen his picture before, yes,
Yeah.
but I don't know much about him.
He was the president before, right?
Mhm.
And he was actually in the engineering corps. Also, was a private, and then went on to become the political worker.
I think the term for that is a political commissar.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that.
Okay. All right. So the political worker? What's his extra duty, or what's the difference between him and like another first corporal?
I can't tell obviously because I don't know much about that, but I would assume it does something to do with propaganda and stuff like that, and educating your fellow soldiers.
And is that like kind of like your only duty, or is it like extra to your
Yeah,
already
extra.
Like, all right, yeah, fair enough.
It sounds tough, doesn't it?
Yeah, right. So what about your uncle? Did he? So he was conscripted though, or was
Yeah.
he a professional?
He was a conscript.
And did he tell you that he enjoyed his experience, or what was his feedback?
Oh, along with many other people, he just said it is what it is.
Okay.
But one thing I heard about him though was that he learned English during his service.
All right. Interesting.
Is now, which allowed him to get his graduate degree, and he's now doing really, I would say, really well.
So that's another sort of experience or sort of example where the conscription really sort of helped change someone's life, right? And improve someone's.
True, there were like, even in my squad, right? There were some in my platoon. There are people who are independently learning English and Korean right now, and our unit basically has a contract with the local vocational school. So, excuse me. So, we now have people who are now gonna be discharged with a degree in plumbing, carpentry, electricians, and some of us even got our driver's license, actually.
Okay, so two questions here. Like, first of all, is this because they personally, like these individuals, like personally requested these different?
No, the unit offered the option.
At what point do they offer you these options? At the very beginning, or do you have to like spend a few months?
They said we could, and then like afterwards, after we gave our oath and become like fully fledged soldiers of the armed forces, they provided us the option.
Right. Okay, so that's amazing. And at what kind of options? So you said, I know you mentioned a few, but like any others that come to mind? What else could
I
people
would
do?
say that's pretty much it. And then after, and then they also like ask you if you want to stay in the unit and become an enlisted. And sometimes I've heard that we have like work offers when we are about to discharge. So we get offers from police, judicial execution, and the army also, and civilian companies too. Actually,
Wow, that's really good. Yeah, so it gives you a lot of opportunities, right? Provides a lot of opportunities. And at what point during like the day, you know, when you're in the army, you're on the base, you're going through your routine. At what point do you actually go off base to the vocational school to learn whatever you want to
now,
learn?
actually, the teachers come to the base to teach.
Super convenient, right?
Yeah.
That's great. And how many hours a day? Let's say you were doing like carpentry. Like, you know, at what point of the day would it happen? Would it happen every day?
I would say like an hour and a half to 2 hours. That's how I remember.
And did you choose any of these specific
I
options?
chose driving because it's convenient, right? And we had like 10-20% off the price, which is also super convenient too.
It's really good.
Yeah.
So you're driving sort of like a standard car, or are you driving like army jeeps and trucks and stuff?
It's just standard car, civilian driver's license, you know. Super convenient.
That's great. So you've got you passed it in the end, I guess, right? You passed your license.
I passed my like driving rules and stuff like that, right? But I never actually went to driving tests and stuff like that.
Okay. So you just kind of delaying it, or for any particular reason, or why are you not going for it? Since you learned all the skills, right? And you passed your theory, so.
I'm thinking of like giving the test in the near future.
Super. Yeah, that'll be very convenient. Although, yeah, I think in Erdenet it's a much nicer experience, right? Driving as opposed to Ulaanbaatar, which is, as you probably know already, a bit of a nightmare.
The worst thing is that even isn't this now starting to have a little bit of traffic? It's noticeable, which I would say is a sign of it's developing. But yeah, we're having more citizens, but the traffic is always everywhere, inconvenient.
Yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense, right? I mean, Erdenet, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the second biggest city in Mongolia.
True, only rivaling Darkhan, right, because of the copper factory.
Okay. Right. In the one that's the copper factory that's next to Erdenet.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. That's a good, a nice little piece of information, a bit of color that we can add on the side for those of you who don't know much about Mongolia. So what about, so your uncle on your father's side, your uncle and great uncle on your mother's side, how did they give you any advice before you joined?
Nope, nothing actually. But like afterwards, I got discharged. We had a lot to talk about. And it is like there's what I've noticed so far is there's this like shared feeling, camaraderie between soldiers, people who have served their mandatory service, like even all over the world actually, like fellow soldiers from the past and the present, all have this shared camaraderie between each other.
And do you feel like, I mean, how was your relationship with those members of the family who served before? And did this experience change this relationship?
I met up with them like a few days back, right? And they basically told me that I've changed. I've become more developed physically and like mentally and emotionally. As I became much more open, much more extrovert compared to went when I was a civilian before.
Right. So it literally helped to, yeah, like really help you grow as a person and I guess change your personality, but in a good way.
True, I would say.
So, I mean, yeah, one more benefit, right, to add to the long list of benefits that we've just mentioned. Yeah, this is great. So, but what, I mean, okay, you share this bond, like, you know, they say that it is what it is, but what are their, i.e. your family members that served, what are their views about conscription? Do they think that it's still something that the country should keep, or do they think it should be scrapped?
I would. This is like my personal view, right? I would basically say that the mandatory service should be canceled, but if someone decides to voluntarily become a military person, then their benefits should be improved upon. So let's say like improved salaries, more opportunities, housing, and much more benefits. Let's say, for example, if you're serving in the capital city, I would say like free bus passes. Between hell, what? Okay, instead of maybe like a free pass around the entire city, maybe just have a free pass from their base to their home destination, right? So, like in Japan, right? In Japan, like university students have like a free pass in a certain destination. It's called what was it? Tikiken, I think. Maybe something like that. And then like further opportunities to progress their careers. So maybe if they're enlisted, they have the opportunity to become officer, which I think it is there. So I would say something like that should be added.
That's quite surprising. So there are many benefits for these sort of career soldiers, huh? So no bus, free travel, no.
Yeah, free. There isn't. I think there isn't anything like that. But I can't like delve much more deeper into this because I don't know much for certain. Like I've said, it is my personal opinion.
Well, I guess you'll have more information once you sort of return from the US and you kind of join the army as a career sort of officer, right?
Yeah.
And you'll be able to. We can do a part 2 sequel later on when you're when you're in when you'll be like a whatever. What are you going to join as when you get? It's like lieutenant, right, or whatever when you do the officer training, right?
Second lieutenant, or maybe a first lieutenant.
Excellent stuff.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Super. Now I'm sure you'll get there 100%. And so just coming back quickly, I'm sorry to kind of get back to your family members, but I want to just compare because they were all serving during the sort of socialist era, right? So it was different government, a different time, the Cold War, etc. So how did that sort of make their experience different to yours?
Well, in the socialist era, it was 3 years, then it became 2 years, and then it became 1 year, right? So my uncle served for 3 years. And, well, it was partially the same, but sometimes the structure was different. My uncle was a sergeant. I thought he was a first corporal, but turned out he was a sergeant. And yeah, it was a bit tougher, I would believe. Maybe due to the circumstances of their time, or maybe it was because of the base he was serving in. The base he was serving in is known in Mongolia to be the toughest one. Everyone knows it. I would say it's almost legendary.
So why is it so tough? What's so tough about it?
Well, it's because it's in the south border of the nation, which obviously connects you to China, and it basically forces you to be tough. So in case due to the tensions of the era, they would suspect that our southern friends would attack us.
Yeah, friends, quote unquote, yeah.
Yeah, quote unquote.
Right. That's interesting. So the experience is different also depending on location and even today, right? Is this still true today?
Yeah.
Okay. So can you choose when you first get conscripted which location you can kind of request the unit? I mean, you can at least propose something, but can you
Yeah.
also propose the location?
I could sometimes you could propose, but even then, like I said, it doesn't make much of a difference.
Fair enough, yeah. I mean, whatever the army needs you, that's where you go. Yeah.
You go
That's
where the
fair.
army wants you to go. You shoot where the army wants you to shoot. It's as
Right.
simple as that.
No questions.
Yeah.
So what about your friend who's serving in the east? Like, why the east is also like on the, I mean, I guess you have two borders, right? Russia and China. So at some
Yeah.
point, but the east would be also China, right?
Yeah, both actually.
Okay.
Both China and Russia.
So that's probably why he's having a bit of a bad time.
Yeah. And he told me that he basically runs like almost 30 kilometers every morning. And he tells me he hates it there. Yeah.
Sounds pretty good to me, though. It
But
sounds
he-
like you're keeping fit and working out, you know?
Yeah, and he actually is in a very cool unit though. Artillery. Artillery and anti-aircraft cannons.
So what's, I mean, I can guess why it's cool. I mean, there's pretty cool military equipment to work with, but I mean, why, in your opinion, is it like a good place to be in?
Well, you shoot and it goes boom. Simple as that.
Yeah.
I assume I'm probably a very primal person because I enjoy like things go boom, right?
Yeah, that's what people think of when they join the army. That's what they want to do, right?
Yeah.
Some action. Yeah, that's cool. And so, what about you? Did you do a lot of sort of like combat training and like use a lot of military
Well,
equipment?
like I said, we are engineering, so our specialty is like for our platoon it was like making minefields and disarming minefields, making traps, and anything like combat engineering related. And for I personally was a demolitionist, right? So I was trained to use explosives, make charges, stuff like that.
Wow. And that also has some really useful applications in civilian life as well,
Yeah,
in the construction sector.
and since I'm a demolitionist, I now have the opportunity to work in like mines, right? Factories, where I could work as a demolitionist. But the problem being, I would have to like hide the fact that I'm a demolitionist
Why?
because I've heard that like in the in factory, right? The demolitionists aren't allowed to travel to different countries due to their profession
Okay.
because they are trained to use explosives. So, in case that they might be extremists and yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so you're kind of like a security risk. And okay, so what, like, at what point do you start to, get your sort of training, your sort of speciality training, right, in demolition?
like I would say after basic training, or 4 or 5 days where you learn the basics, drills, and basic weapon training. Then afterwards, that.
So during basic training, you actually do get to shoot live ammunition.
Yeah, before your oath ceremony, we got to shoot. And I, so the first shot was for training, right? They gave us 3 combat bullets and we were targets. And I went on and shot, right? 3 bullets on 5, which makes it 15. Perfect score. And then the unit commander, colonel, right, came and said, "Damn, son, where'd you learn to shoot?" I said, "Sir, I worked with fire. I worked with weapons before, sir." "Damn, son, keep shooting at it and they might give you the Medal of Honor."
Nice.
And I got the sharpshooter's flag, which is this like small red triangular flag. I'm very proud to have gotten that flag. I still keep it at home.
And this is after like the sort of third, fourth, or fifth day of being in the service?
No, before the oath ceremony. So let's see, day 44, perhaps.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, tell me about this initial phase. So what happens in the oath ceremony? I would have assumed, like, if you don't really know about this, that the oath ceremony comes at the very beginning on your first day.
The oath ceremony is regarded as a holiday around the army bases in the nation, where the soldiers give their oath to the nation. Actually, I think I could translate the oath
Okay, yeah,
if
go
you
ahead.
want to, of course.
Sure, that'd be great.
Hold on. Okay. Okay. I, the citizen of Mongolia, swear to uphold my oath and protect the sovereignty of Mongolia, which is the eternal flame of our ancestors, and swear to protect the sovereignty of our nation in front of our nation, government, and our citizens. I will swear to uphold the unity of our people and the great tradition of our military. Train in the military arts, keep the secrets of the nation, and swear to uphold the laws and the military rules of Mongolia. And should I, the defender of my country, betray my oath, will face the holy judgment of the government.
Nice, serious stuff.
Yeah.
So why does that come after sort of 40 odd days of training and not at the very beginning?
That I can't say for certain. I don't know.
So is this kind of like, does the oath mark basically the end of your first sort of initial phase in the
Yeah, and it basically symbolizes that you have become a full-fledged soldier of the armed forces in your commitment to the service of your nation.
Excellent stuff. So tell me about these initial sort of 4 or 5 days. The basic training is only 5 days, yeah?
No, it's for 45 days.
45 days, sorry, my bad.
Yeah. And which we learn basic drills and how the military works and laws regarding the military.
And how long does it take you to sort of, feel comfortable with everything and to integrate?
I would say like a week, 2 weeks maximum.
And is it like, how did you feel during that time? Is everyone kind of struggling and, finding it difficult?
Obviously. And on the second week, they allowed us to contact our families, right? And you could see the most toughest looking people breaking down and crying, talking to the family because of the difficulty.
And tell us about the way that you're able to contact them. So obviously no mobile phones allowed on the base, yeah?
Yeah.
So how do you contact your families?
The unit has their own phone. We are, with schedule, we are allowed to contact our family every 2 weeks. So the unit gave us their phone and we basically lined up and talked to our own families. And they basically register everything, who you talked to and what's their phone number and how long you talked.
Do you have like a sort of a time limit or anything like that?
It was maybe 5 to 10 minutes, I recall. Something like that.
So who were you calling, for example?
Oh, obviously I called my parents. And they were surprised to hear me like very happy, right?
Yeah.
Because they actually thought I would be crying or something.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, how were they? What were they saying? Like, were they quite emotional and sort of what were they asking you?
Like, they were like so surprised that I actually went off. They said that they were proud of me. Told me to like fulfill my service with honor.
Nice. And what were your sort of first impressions of the base that you were on?
And the first thought the first thing I thought of when I went into the base was, oh shit, here we go. Well, the base is somewhat smaller compared to what you see, but I would say it is pretty neat though, because we do all of our work ourselves.
And was this base specifically for conscripts, the people in the conscript program, or did you share it with sort of like professional sort of career soldiers?
Well, the conscripts are usually stay in barracks, and the enlisted officers actually live around that base.
So it's an active base, like with professional soldiers there.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And did you stay at the same base for the entire duration of your conscription? So is the place where you did basic training the place where you stayed for the remainder of your service?
Yeah, pretty much.
And can you tell us a little bit about, the accommodation? You said like barracks, but what style, what type of structure are we talking about?
How would you say? It's for 2 platoons, right? 2 platoons for like basically whatever you need to like live comfortably, I guess. You have your basic beds, like 2 rooms for 2 squads. There's 2 rooms for the platoon commander and platoon sergeant, and 1 room for entertainment room. Actually, we had a TV, we had a piano. None of us could play, but still it was there, and some books. And we had a library on base, so soldiers could rent out books and then return it back.
Great. Oh, what was the selection of books like in the library? Any good?
So there were obviously a bunch of military books, tactics and stuff like that, which I actually enjoyed. Literature, obviously. Self-development books, like a bunch of books actually.
Excellent. Did you get any sort of like foreign language books, like in English books and so on?
There was 1 book, like it was published by the National University of Mongolia for English. I actually did those books when I was in like 6th or 7th grade.
Okay. So no use for them, yeah?
Yeah, not anymore.
Excellent. No, you don't need that. Your English is really good. So that's interesting. And so what about like, I guess bathrooms and kitchen, etc.? What about the other types of facilities?
Well, we did have like a public bathroom, and we had another bathroom inside with just 2 urinals and a shower actually, and sinks and whatever stuff you need. And kitchen was, it's also on base too, like 2 big rooms, and yeah.
And I mean, is it pretty sort of like modern inside? Like, the fittings, like there's like electricity.
I would say it's pretty big because we expanded it and did some work on it.
Okay. So, I mean, it's all built and maintained by the army. There are no sort of like private contractors coming in.
Yeah, because we are engineering, so we do everything ourselves. Do the plumbing, electricity, internal work. Yeah.
Okay, excellent stuff. Would you say that it's like relatively? I know it's the army, right? But would you say that it's pretty comfortable to live on base?
I would say it's pretty comfortable, right? Except for people yelling at you.
Yeah, that can really mess up your level of comfort, right? Or affect your level of comfort, for sure. So what was your routine like? Can you just give us a quick sort of example of a daily schedule?
Well, you wake up at 6, and then you do your PTs. You come back, do some hygiene stuff, brush your teeth, wash your face, and then do a little bit of cleaning. And then at 7 you have breakfast. 7:30 your breakfast ends, and then you get a little potty break and smoke break. Then afterwards until 8:30 you do some cleaning, right, in your barracks. And then in 8:30 the whole unit comes together for formation, and we raise the flag. And then the commanders come out, give out some duties for the day, and then the day begins. Guards change shifts at 10, and the whole thing goes on. And then at 12, you have lunch. 12:30 also smoke break, potty break, and then for 30 minutes you're allowed to rest, go to sleep, which is the highlight of the day. And then afterwards at 1 p.m. you also have formation. And the formation ends, and then you do whatever you were doing. And then at 5:30 or maybe 6, the unit comes together for formation again, and then the work hours end. Those who are on guard duty and the soldiers stay on base. Mm, from 6 to 7 p.m. you have a free hour where you free to do whatever you need. I wouldn't say want, but need. And then on 7 you have dinner. And then 7:30 also smoke break and bathroom. And then on until 8:30 you do, which is what we call night count, right? Where we count how many soldiers there are on base, how many. Mm, then on 8:30, the entire platoon comes together for formation, where we inspect There's this lining thing, shirt. Let me show you the picture.
The collar on your uniform.
Yeah, the collar.
Okay.
You see this white thing, right?
Yes.
It's supposed to be like exactly the length of a matchstick. Exactly. If it's not, then you'll get ripped. And then eventually you'll learn, actually. You'll learn to do it in like 5 minutes. And then you can just watch TV or something. They don't really care unless you do. If you can do it. And they inspect your shoes. You're supposed to have that spit shine. Yeah. This is actually my military combat boot, actually.
Excellent. Yeah, it's nice.
It's kind of dusty right now due to me going around a lot.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I know people in Mongolia, the youngsters anyway, seem to love the Doc Martens fashion, so I think they would love to wear these types of army boots.
Actually, to be honest, I'm so used to my combat boots that I can't wear sneakers anymore. Yeah, when I wear sneakers, they're so like puffy and soft, and it just feels weird. But this like feels heavy and comfortable, actually. And then you do your inspections, you go out on formation, and the night count begins, right? Before that, you go around for 30 minutes singing and just walking around. I could show you the footage, but if you want to, of course.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Just to give you the general gist of it. Attention to right face. Forward march. So they sing.
What does the song mean?
It's literally called the night song, right? And you start with the song and then you sing other usually military related songs. And then afterwards the whole platoon stands in formation. They do count, and the non-commissioned officers, the unit guard give duties, and we put down a flag. And then we final like bathroom and smoke break, right? And then we go to bed at 10, and that's it. That's the entire day. Guards fulfill their duties, and yeah.
So it's like lights out, right?
Yeah, lights out. No one comes out.
Right. And so the guards are sort of drawn. It's like a lottery or something like that, or it's like just a rotation.
Like a rotation.
Okay.
Like they're appointed.
and they have to stay up all night.
Yeah, they get to sleep for 2 hours, as stated by the military rules.
And then they have to wake up like everyone else and start the day like at the same time.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty brutal, man.
Oh, it is what it is. But the guards, when they get off duty, they are allowed to rest, right? Uninterrupted. And like officers and enlisted, they after they go off duty, they leave and go home. They don't have to come to the base for the entire day.
Okay. So the night guards aren't taken from the conscripted sort of personnel. They're from the career soldiers.
Armed guards, right?
Mm.
They are appointed from the conscripts. The unit guard is always an officer. Unit guard assistant, maybe an enlisted, maybe an officer, and there are like a lot, right? It's usually mixed.
Yeah, I've got some questions about that as well, but I'm just coming back to the routine. First things first, so you wake up, you do your PT,
Yeah.
right? What does that involve? What kind of exercises do you do?
Running, gymnastics, push-ups, stretches, and stuff like that.
Would you say that it's pretty tough? I mean,
Well, it was tough at first, but later on, you finish your PT and you're still sleepy. That basically shows how much you're used to it and how much your body has developed so far.
how quickly do you get used to it?
I would say it takes a while, maybe 4 weeks.
And
For me, though,
I guess people come in with different levels of fitness, right? So there are
Yeah.
some guys that are just kind of athletes.
there were like athletes, professional bodybuilders, wrestlers, and then there were like some people who done nothing but academics and done nothing but drinking. Like, yeah.
And so, do you find that the PT is quite effective? Did you notice, just from a workout perspective, right? Like, did you notice that you had a pretty significant increase in your sort of strength and your balance? And
Yeah, I found myself being able to run pretty long distances. Like, for example, though, yesterday I missed my bus, right? And I said, basically, screw it. Instead of like wasting 200, and I ran from one side of the bridge to Squatter Square without stopping. Like, that's how much my body developed so far.
nice.
Yeah.
I hope you're talking about Engtaiven Bridge and not that one that has no pedestrian walkway. That's just like in front of the Shangri-La. You know that
Oh,
one that's like
I
the
could even
suicide bridge?
run that one too.
Yeah.
It'd still be okay. Regardless.
Because that's dangerous, that one, you know, because there's no walkway for pedestrians.
Like, it's like James Bond said, right? I like to live dangerously.
yeah. Yeah, true. Yeah. If you have a death wish, you can do that one. But I guess as a soldier, it keeps things interesting, right? It's like challenging. But
Yeah.
as a civilian, it's pretty dangerous stuff. All right, and so let's talk about the. Coming back to the PT, did anyone, like, is it quite easy to get injured with that kind of routine? Were there any injuries based on the types of workouts you were doing?
No, actually.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it is pretty simple and safe. You'd have to be, I would say, forget my term, but retarded to to injure yourself that way.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. And what about the food? So you said you had you would go to the canteen, right? And I know the reputation of army food, you know, in on an international basis is not great. But what about Mongolian army food?
I would say it's pretty nutritious and healthy, and pretty tasty too. In our case, I've heard of stories of some units having like less than subpar food, but ours was pretty good. I would say, pretty balanced.
Can you give me an example of like breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
So on breakfast, let's say we had like bread with butter and sugar. The bread was pretty large too. Let me give you a general idea. So it had like a base of this, right, and as big as this. That's just for one food too. They give you a bread like this for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Right. Wow. And that's just like on the side, right?
Yeah, on the side, and then you have one meal for breakfast, 2 meals for lunch, and 1 meal for dinner. And on Tuesdays and days, in our case, we had like vegetarian food,
Interesting.
which is
Why?
horrendous. I would
Yeah.
say. It's like one of the most horrifying feelings in the world. Like you go out on your guard duty, you're standing at point for 2 hours in like -30 cold, and then you come in the morning, and then see your breakfast, right, and you instantly feel happy, and then you open the container and you see goddamn rice with milk. How does that feel?
Yeah, it's not very exciting. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
It's one of the most horrifying feelings in the world.
Rice and milk, and that's quite interesting for breakfast.
Yeah,
Oh.
rice and milk and kash, if you ever heard of it. It's Russian, right? Like it's like an oatmeal kind of thing.
Right. Some oats in there as well, yeah. Kind of some other grain in there. Oh,
I
kvass,
wouldn't-
like is it a drink, yeah?
It's pretty liquid, I would say. It's something like this. It depresses me when I porridge.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
that's the term.
Yeah. Okay. So you've got oats, rice, and milk all in the same sort of.
Yeah, and
Meal.
yellow rice with raisins. Can you imagine that? Raisins. It's terrible.
So what did you guys do to make these things a bit more exciting and taste better? Can you add your own? You add a bit of sugar. You add a bit of something else, maybe some spices or whatever. Did you have that?
Nothing.
No. Okay.
We just either you just gulp it down or you just throw it away. Whatever.
Right.
It's your call.
But I'm assuming that everyone's super hungry, right? So no matter what you were given,
It is what it is. You gotta eat it. You eat it or you starve. That's the only option you have. Sometimes people just choose to starve because they literally refuse to eat it.
Interesting. But how is that received though by the kind of like the superiors? Don't they frown upon people like wasting food?
Well, when we were in basic, right, they forced us to eat the vegetarian food. Even though you can see that our commanding officers don't even enjoy it themselves. And then afterwards, like after basic, when we gave our oath, they just said, whatever, if you don't want to eat, then don't eat. And the rest of the days that we eat everything, right?
What about lunch then? Can you give me an example of what you would?
Lunch, you have like a soup and another food with no soup. So let's say like fried rice, perhaps tune. I'm sure you've eaten it and
Yes.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
It's
delicious.
probably the greatest Mongolian food that there ever was. Stuff like that, along with the bread, of course,
Right.
and free tea.
Is it kind of like a buffet style, like eat as much as you like, or you can at least go for seconds, or is it just that one, like those
No,
two
it's
meals?
everything is precisely measured, so you can't add more or whatever. But if you play poker, we used to play a lot of poker, right? Because we were born and there's nothing to do, and we need something to bet on, right? So usually it was cigarettes, candy. Sometimes they put in the shoe polish. Shoe polish is a precious commodity there, and sometimes we would just bet our food, right? And if you lost, then you have to give your entire food to the person who won. It is what it is.
It's a risky bet.
Yeah.
No. How often did that happen though?
Well, you can see someone just giving away their entire food and just looking at them very angry.
But they shouldn't have bet it, right? They
Yeah.
shouldn't have bet food, yeah.
Well, sucks to be you.
Yeah, right. That's terrible. And just quickly, a quick note about the bread. Like, I mean, what kind of bread is it? Like white bread, brown bread, like whole wheat?
It's white bread.
Okay.
Brown bread. What are you talking about, man? We're not that rich.
I thought maybe he'd give you something like with a bit of fiber in there.
Well, it is what it is. They gave you to eat it, and you just eat it. No questions asked.
Is it good though? Yeah.
I would say we probably had the best bread. I would say, like even now, like when I asked my grandma, right? She cooked me a meal, and the first thing I asked was, "Do you have bread?" Because it feels so weird eating something without bread nowadays. And she just whipped out like a commercial sliced bread, right? And it's so weird eating that kind of bread. You could feel it just it's not the same as like the army bread, where they just it's just bread, maybe oil, maybe some salt, sugar, and water. Like God knows what they add in like commercial sliced bread, right? Some kind of like anti-drying agent or whatever, and just makes me suspicious, you know.
Yeah, that's true. It's there's nothing like, I guess it's baked, right? Freshly
Yeah,
baked in on the
it's
base
fresh.
and stuff.
God, you have no idea how great freshly cooked bread is. It just crisps up. And you know it's just bread, right? And there's nothing added, nothing in there, but still, it's one of the greatest things you can eat. It just literally warms you up.
One of the perks of army life, right?
Yeah.
Bread, nice one. Maybe you could try to recreate it and start your own bakery, business.
I legitimately tried to negotiate with the baker, right? I told her if you could share me the recipe of your bread, I can like share a recipe with you either. Hell, like I can even marry with your daughter or something and make her happy. Just give me the recipe of bread, and she's like,
No. Top secret, yeah.
yeah, army secret.
This is the lady, the soldier who was in South Sudan, right? Who experienced
No.
another one.
And she's just a baker, who's under the command of the head chef, who I mentioned before.
Okay, but she's not enlisted. She's not part of the army.
No, she's just a civilian contractor.
Interesting that. All right, cool. Well, hopefully, maybe one day we can get that secret. We'll be able to
One day.
start a bakery.
I hope so.
Make millions. Okay, and what about? So you said you to drink you had tea during. Do you want another one, by the way?
Nah.
Okay. You can help
If I get another one, then I'll go even further.
Okay, cool. No worries.
When I go crazy, I go real crazy.
All right. Well, we need to finish the interview before, then you can get another one if you want. But in terms of the drink, so you said no alcohol on base. You did have tea. What other sort of drinks?
Water, obviously.
Yeah.
So and on like holidays, right? The unit's command, basically, they gave us out like free candy. They gave us out candies, cookies, and sometimes fruit juice, right? Like Coke, if you want to get crazy.
Okay.
I'm thinking about the drink. I'm talking about the drink, of course.
Yeah, I hope so.
And yeah, basically.
Okay, so that's quite reasonable, right? And just quickly before we move on from food and drink, like dinner was, I guess, like a variation of lunch, right? It's kind of like you could have the same thing for dinner. Was it
No,
different?
you never have the same thing for like a month, right? Because they print out the recipes and what ingredients they were in, like how much nutrition you would receive, and everything is planned out.
That's really good, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you feel that, generally speaking, like unless you kind of lost your bet and you had to give your food to someone else, did you generally feel like the meals were, forget about the taste, but like adequate in terms of like recovery and
Our
energy?
commanding officer told us on the was it third day? And he told us, the army will never let you go hungry, but it will never make you feel full.
And that's true according to your experience as well.
True, because like think when you like eat until you're full and you can't stand up, right? And it like makes you sleazy and makes you go fat. That's what the army doesn't want.
That makes sense. Yeah, you need to be. I mean, yeah, like it'll definitely spike your blood sugar levels and other things like that can affect your performance, right? Like your physical
True.
performance.
And also like the ingredients were like very normal, right? They don't add anything like very extra. So let's think like soy sauce or maybe spice, right? What if there's someone who is allergic to spice, or what if you add like extra soy sauce and then someone has something with their kidney because of all the salt in there, right?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Did you feel like you kind of like lost weight, gained weight, like after that sort of diet?
I was 63 kilograms when I went to the army, and I became 65, and that's been consistent so far. But there were like someone who was 100 kilograms and then dropped to like 80 something. That's how much they dropped. Yeah.
Nice. That's good, yeah. So that's another benefit. If you wanted to lose weight,
Yeah.
go in the army.
Well, it isn't pleasant, but it is healthy.
Yeah. No pain, no gain, man, you know?
Yeah.
Excellent. So what were your sort of fellow feedback about the food? Like, did some of them, were they often complaining? Did they get used to it pretty quickly? Did some of them like it?
At first there were like most of us didn't enjoy the food, right? Some of us like basically outright refused to eat it. Some like made up a lie about not being able to eat. And then like afterwards we just started eating, you know. Sometimes we enjoy it, sometimes we don't, but we still just learned how to get used to it, deal with it, you know.
What was the, you must have had like a favorite sort of combination meal combo, yeah, during your time?
There was like this potato covered meat, right? So you think like lasagna, something like lasagna. Like, oh god, there was this one lady who did it like no one else. I love my mom and grandma's cooking, right? But her meals were nothing compared. Seriously.
Oh, that's a big statement, man. Yeah.
I stand by my statement. Seriously, her cooking is like godsend, I would say.
Excellent.
It was probably one of the most greatest thing I ever, with fresh bread too that day. I still think about that day a lot.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that those are the kind of, it makes your day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent stuff. Super interesting. And so, what aspects of the sort of army routine did you enjoy?
Well, I appreciated the general concept of it because being organized is very important to be successful nowadays, and it is generally a good quality for someone to have, and to basically take that quality and to add it to your own daily civilian life is a good foundation to success, personal success, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And what about the exercise? Did you like kind of feel that was a great addition to your day?
Well, I hated doing exercises, right? Like every other person, but like deep down, I knew that I needed this.
And now you're really used to it, right? Could you now, after your experience, kind of consider a life without working out, without?
It feels weird, right? Like even on the like first day after I got discharged, right? I woke up at 5:50 and thought, "God damn it, why isn't they giving out the wake up calls?" And then I looked around and realized, "Oh yeah, I forgot." And then went back to sleep. And then I woke up at 6 a.m. and then thought, "God damn it, why aren't they waking?" Oh yeah, I forgot. And then went back to sleep.
And how did you feel? Like, were you kind of like at that point when you just got discharged, right? You woke up. Did you feel kind of like relieved that you weren't needing to do this routine, or were you kind of upset and missing it?
Well, the first day I was really relieved, and then on the second and third day afterwards, I basically forced myself to wake up and do PTs because it is like a really positive thing, right?
Yeah, and I think you realize that, right? You need to force yourself or be forced to do regular exercise, and then you realize that it's really vital in life, right? To have it as part of your own personal routine, whatever you do.
Yeah, true. It's like there was this quote by Socrates, right? He who only lifts and exercises is too brute, and he who only like studies is too effeminate. The perfect citizen is someone who both lifts and thinks. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Healthy mind, healthy body, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, that's perfect. And so, just coming back to your wake up call, and is it sort of what everyone assumes, like in civilian life, to be, the army wake up call? So they come in and they start like bashing pots and pans and like whatever, like just making a big mess in the room.
I want you to like ask someone who finished the military service, like, what is the worst command? And they will all unanimously say that it is the wake up call. So this is how they wake up, right? So there's the platoon guard and the platoon, what I would say, shift. Those who are on shift, right? So the three soldiers all stand right next to the rooms and basically repeat the platoon guard's command. Sit ordos, boss. It basically says, wake up, wake up, wake up, get up, and everything's on command. When they tell you to wake up, you don't get up from bed, and then when they tell you to get up as fast as possible, and then get dressed, get your shoes and jacket, and be ready to go out in formation. Literally, like what, 2 minutes? 2 minutes is too long though.
Right.
Yeah, everything needs to be fast and possible, and it is the worst command. Everyone tell you, every like military person, everyone who's served before, they will all say it is the worst command. Even now, when I hear wake up, I get migraines, right?
Yeah, post-traumatic stress. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. And so what happens? Like, is that order loud enough for people to hear all the time, or do sometimes people are they just sleeping so deeply that they just don't hear?
You're supposed to get up, right? Even though you're like a deep sleeper, you learn to just listen to the command and wake up.
Right. What happens to those stragglers who don't manage to put their boots on in time and everything? Yeah. Yeah.
Simple
Yeah.
as that.
In the face, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So if you get disciplined, which happens in every army, right? Like, do you get punched in the face, or do they hit you in like other parts of the body that don't sort of like, I guess, hurt as much?
Our platoon sergeant once told us that I used to command 300 soldiers. I'll make you twats suffer just with my voice. Trust me, you don't want that. And true, they can basically torture you with only their voice, right? If they told you to do push-ups and basically hold that position, you do that without question.
And I guess like eventually you get used to the routine and you kind of automatically wake up around that time, right? Around 6.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Which is good, right? It's another great benefit. I think, to get up early, go to bed early, get up early. It's a great routine to have in general in life, whatever you do. And the early bird gets the worm, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but even then, like after lights out, someone still sleep, right? Because like you get in bed, you look up and talk to the person next to you. Just that's where you get your free time, Like no one commanding you, no one yelling, no whatsoever, just quiet. And we used to like stay up all night and talk about what we used to do and what we want to do afterwards. Now, it's one of my fond memories.
Nice. And on that note, how quickly do you make friends? And I mean, does everyone become friends, or do you kind of have your groups here and there?
Well, there are groups here and there, but like everyone knows everyone. Everyone basically shares that bond because we're all going through the same horrible experience, and yeah, but everyone shares like this bond together in the military, right? In any nation of the world, because you're going through the same horrible experience together, and I guess that's what brings people together.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. And do you have like you have like, I guess, your squad, right, as well?
Yeah.
And do you have like a buddy or anything like that, or your bunk buddy or something?
We have like a battle buddy, right?
Right.
Assigned to you. They're usually the person above or under your bed.
Right.
Yeah, my battle buddy was like a really cool person too. He was from the countryside, and we used to talk a lot, right? And I like being a person, a city boy, quote unquote, and him being a country person. We used to talk a lot about our own experiences. Like one fun thing I remember is that like after PT, right, we were both exhausted to death, and he told me, you know, those fancy restaurants and stuff you talk about, right? You're gonna show me around those places, right? And I say, yeah, sure, whatever. Hell, I'm taking care of the costs and whatever. You promise, man? Yeah, sure. I still intend to keep that promise.
Nice. Yeah. Give him a taste of the fancy restaurants, huh?
Yeah.
Excellent.
And he
Super.
promised me to show around his like where he grew up and where he stays, like the countryside.
So, did you, this bunk buddy of you, like your kind of your buddy, all the other people in your unit in the barracks at that point, you all joined at the very same time, or were people just kind of like coming in and out of the unit?
Well, mostly, yeah. And the last people who came were from the city. Well, they came in like 3 or 4 days afterwards due to some complications in the military staff. But yeah, generally we all went through the military staff on the same day.
Okay. Excellent stuff. And you're coming from all over the country, right? So this
Yeah.
chap was from a completely different province as yours, right?
Yeah, there was some people who came from the desert regions. There was
Uh-huh.
some people who were from the country. There was some from the city.
Okay.
Yeah, there were some who had already graduated university, and there were some people who didn't have any education at all, like from completely different backgrounds. There were some people who had like charges and stuff like that. Yeah, completely different people.
Right. And yet you kind of made it work somehow, right? And you bonded.
Yeah, it's, like the literally melting pot.
Right. Excellent stuff. So that's a great experience as well, I think, for people to have. It's to kind of be able have that access and be able to, or the opportunity to engage with different people from different backgrounds. That also helps to grow as a person.
True, you learn how to talk with certain people and understand some people have like different personalities and whatever. And you learn how to communicate around that.
Yeah, it helps you to become more of a people person, right? I guess, and to be able to connect with people better.
True.
Yeah, that's great, man. So what about your buddy? Is he still like in the
Yeah.
army right now?
He's still in service. I went to visit him on Friday. He was on guard duty.
Right.
And we basically talked, and I let him talk on the phone for a little bit, and he talked with his girlfriend.
Right.
Yeah. Like last I've heard, everyone was really jealous about me and my other dude who got discharged with me.
Okay. You both got discharged for the same reason that you're going to go for officer training.
No, I said I was intending to go to West Point to become an officer, and he was going to continue his studies in the National Agriculture, Agriculture University.
Oh, so it was just two of you that had plans. None of the other guys were like in uni or
Well,
doing anything
there
else?
were some others who were in university, but I don't know how the whole process went on, and I can't say for certain.
Okay. Fair enough. Right. So, but anyway, I mean, they're jealous of you, but you're gonna go back for like the rest of your life, right? To the
Yeah.
army, so-
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. And what aspects? And I'm sure there are some. Like, what aspects of that routine did you kind of like dislike the most?
Waking up,
Right. Okay. Yeah.
like when you go to sleep and you have a dream, right? And for me, it was like a brief moment of escape. And plus, like you go all day doing like drills and stuff like that, and you're obviously tired, and to wake up that early is annoying. Like I personally, before I went to the army, I used to wake up at 9 or even 12, right? And for a person like that to wake up at 6 a.m., it's annoying, you would say.
Did you feel like you were, I guess, there's a lot of physical exercise, a lot of energy being spent, but you still had like that 8 hours, right? Technically 8 hours if you didn't speak to your sort of fellow conscripts during that time,
Yeah.
from 10 till 6. Was that kind of like enough time to recover, or were you always feeling a bit tired?
I would say it's enough. And like me at the time being kind of spoiled, thought wasn't enough, but like biologically speaking though, 8 hours is more than enough.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a really good book called I think Why We Sleep. I think that's the title, by Matthew Walker. I highly recommend that book, like to anyone, to you, to anyone. It's really, really useful, like, vital information to have. Okay, what else? Like, what else did you dislike? Maybe not the most, but
Like afternoon PT. God, that was so horrible. Our commanding officer basically told us to start gymnastics PT, and then the bastard just basically went on and smoked and just look at us, right? And if we start to slow down and say, "Up your tempo, you goddamn savages," and then just keep on smoking and looking at us, and then he wouldn't say stop, right? Just for solid 30 minutes, just solid 30 minutes of running.
so like that leading me to my next question is like, how did your superiors treat you in a general sense?
Well, usually humane, I would say. Pretty fair, looking back. Well, in basic, the general idea is to toughen you up and turn you into a soldier from a civilian. So, so that's why I assume they were really tough on us. And what surprised me was the most toughest officers turned out to be the most coolest, right? And our NCO was really tough on us, right? When we were in basic training, and then after we gave our oath and become soldiers, then he turned out to be really cool. And he used to call me a dirty piece of shit stain, and turned from that to the commander. And when he basically sees me and he goes, "Hey commander, what's up?" and I say, "Greetings sir," and then say, "What's up sir?" and then shake his hands. He was really cool.
So there's a big difference between the kind of initial phase, right, before
Yeah.
the oath, and then post oath. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. That. And so this chap, the NCOs and also the commissioned officers, like, are they specifically, or are they kind of like conscript training experts, or do they do like a rotation?
Well, our squad commander was a professional, right? Was commissioned as a squad commander, so was in charge of training the conscripts. Our NCO, I can't say for certain, but he probably had some experience with training conscripts. So yeah, the commanding officer of our other squad wasn't like legitimately. He had experience with student soldiers a few years prior, and probably that's the reason why he was appointed as the squad commander. But his actual job is a weapons officer.
Okay. Yeah, like some, yeah, in the essentially in charge of all the equipment, right? The gun, like the
Yeah, like maintaining weapons, preparing weapons, and like in charge of them.
did some of the sort of like career soldiers that you were training with, that you were serving under, did some of them have like real combat experience?
Our NCO was actually served in Afghanistan. Is a oh, the all he said was, "Oh boy." it was, he said it's great, yeah. And the CEO of the other company actually served in Afghanistan and South Sudan, if I recall correctly. And our platoon sergeant was one of the first initial people who served in Sudan as a peacekeeper.
What did they tell you about their experiences there, if anything?
It's hot, it's nasty, and it's scary, but uh, yeah, they were all proud of the service.
And I guess they can, yeah, like they have a lot of valuable, sort of information, like a lot of valuable data to share with you guys right after these experiences.
Yeah, and our NCO was I like to talk with me because I was so interested, and I guess that's how he became like really fond and supported me to choose the army career.
So what kind of advice would you give like to people that are, either in the army or going into the army? Like, how do you approach and like, the NCOs and COs, like how should you sort of like behave around them to build a good rapport, right? A good relationship with them.
Well, I would say just don't be stupid, don't do anything stupid, and just be loyal to the army, your commanders, and your service, right? And just be a textbook example of a good soldier, I would say. And yeah, pretty much.
And when can you, approach them to speak with them about like anything, like, strategy, whatever you want to talk to them about?
Well, like whenever you have an opportunity, have nothing else to do, of course. Well, because they are the people who are responsible for caring for you, right? And they are your commanding officers, but then they will take care of you like their own brother. They'll be like a father to you for a year.
So in the main, in general, the relationships between the sort of like conscripts and then their superiors is pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say like I said, the squad commander of the other squad commander, he then after basic training went on to do his like main job as a weapons officer. But even like afterwards, we sometimes had time to talk because I was appointed as a unit guard assistant, and then we'd talk. I was very interested in military tactics and the military career afterwards, and he also really loved his job, so he had a lot to share with me. And then really became fond of me, and I expressed my interest to become an officer. And was like really supporting me. Hell, like when I got discharged, right? Like I want to show you this. He gave me his old shoulder patch.
Oh, nice.
This is the rank of signal lieutenant, and he gave me this and said, maybe you'll wear this when you get your commission as an officer. I believe and I hope you'll become a great officer. Good luck."
Nice.
And this is like one of the greatest things that I've ever got.
Yeah, what a nice gesture. Very motivating, right, for you as well, no?
Yeah.
So it seems to me like these guys are really sort of doing what I guess like older members like of society, like adults, should do to people that are younger than them, and that's to inspire, right?
Yeah.
Inspire, motivate people to be better human beings, right? That's really good. So you,
Yeah.
sorry, go on.
Nah, never mind. You.
I was gonna say, so they don't just like hit you for no reason and just kind of
Well,
bully you. And stuff like that.
sometimes I've heard stories of like goddamn psychopaths. I would say, being in the army, being a jackass for all and no reason. But people who I've served with, there were like even in our base, there were like some annoying people. I would say, like, forgive me for the term, assholes there, but there were also like NCOs and officers I would die for because they've treated me with respect, and I've treated them with respect back.
And are these superiors much older than you? Like, I mean, are they sort of like 10, 20, or 30 years older than you?
Like it is sometimes common for a sergeant to have been born in 2001, for example, right, and then went on to the sergeant school. Just think, right? There's someone who was born in 2001 commanding someone who's born in 1998. It's common.
Right. And I mean, does it really affect the respect that the sort of like superior is shown, or?
Well, you could not respect anyone, but still, if that person has a high rank than you, then you have no other option to obey them. That is the military.
And in terms of like, the promotion of conscripts, so you mentioned, for example, that your uncle on your father's side was like, he was a conscript, then he was promoted to sergeant, right? At some point.
Yeah.
How does that work? Like, how soon
Well,
do you get
I would
promoted?
say it's through merit, actually. You have soldiers, and some of them might be above them in terms of like physicality, mental, and just all around a good soldier. Usually, those soldiers are promoted. Hell, actually, I was supposed to become a private first class, and some stuff happened. They gave my rank to someone else.
So there's a limit, like they can't just be promoting everyone, right? So
Yeah.
there's a limited number of promotions.
Let's say like from 100 soldiers, there would be like one corporal, two lance corporals, and then like maybe 5 or 6 private first class.
That's really, really interesting. And like how much time after you start the initial training do people do these promotions get given and awarded?
Like, so they give out your names to the higher ups of the unit, and then your rank comes in like a holiday or like a festive day, right? So on like the National Military Day, perhaps they might get their ranks.
Okay, and just a quick like bunch of questions about your fellow recruits. So I know you said that they were from different parts of the country, etc. But were any of the soldiers from ethnic minorities, like Kazakhs or Tuvan or whatever?
I wouldn't say there were much of minorities, but like funny thing though, there was this one dude who we like to call Kazakh, right? Why? Because his wiener was very large, like unusually large. Hell, I would say it was like somewhere around this.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, it was like a third leg. Seriously, if he got it up and then probably stood on it, he could stand on it like a tripod, right? Yeah.
And but what's the link between that and Kazakhs? Is that they have a reputation, yeah?
Yeah, because like Middle Easterns, like Kazakh and Najiban, right? They like cut off their foreskins,
Okay.
and so their wieners could become much more larger, right?
Right. Yeah, fair enough. Oh, I thought it was like an optical illusion, like it's not actually bigger, but it's because you get circumcised, so you cut off the foreskin, that it just appears bigger than it.
Yeah, I
actually
actually
is.
thought that too, but like later on, I read something about like cutting the foreskin actually helps with the growth or something.
Kind of makes sense though in a way, right? 'Cause it kind of frees it from that pocket of just
Yeah,
stunting
and
growth.
actually, this is wrong on so many levels, but yeah, we're talking about the military here, and then and it kind of turned into something about foreskins. But yeah, this is personal experience. I've had my own like foreskin cut, and alongside me was this like 17, 18-year-old dude who had his own foreskin cut. It seems very late, right? But like he had his foreskin basically tightened up on his wee so it couldn't grow any further on. And I've heard that if your foreskin basically sticks to you and it causes complications later on. So one of the complications was it not being able to grow further, bacterias and stuff like that. Yeah.
Sounds painful. I think for any man listening to this, it would also anything to do with that sort
Like
of subject.
a
Yes,
shared pain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, dude. All right, yeah. Before we get too much off topic, let's go back to the
Enough
to,
about
to the-
foreskins.
Yeah, right. Oh, we can do a different podcast one day with some of these sufferers. So, were there any Mongolians with you that grew up overseas?
No, actually. And some of my like NCOs, CO, and squad mates actually thought I grew up abroad, like because of the way I was.
Right. And your accent, like your American accent when you speak English, yeah.
Yeah, and like even when I'm speaking, right, this accent basically infiltrates me speaking Mongolian. And, like even the way I am or whatever, they basically thought I was a foreigner.
Right. Where did they think you were from?
I don't know, somewhere in America probably.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I assumed that at the very beginning as well when we first sort of like started corresponding.
Yeah.
But I mean, okay, so there weren't any in the service with you at that time, but if there had been, like, I mean, let's say you had to guess, like, do you think there would have been any issues with them fitting in, like a language barrier problem, etc.?
I would say if there was, they might have been a language cultural barrier. I would say of like fitting in.
Okay. Like, what would you say? Like, would you kind of like recommend young Mongolians that live overseas to perhaps when they come of age to come back to the sort of mother country? And
Like I've said, if you truly want to, right, then you could come in and do your service. But if you don't, then just don't. Please don't.
yeah, you got to be committed, right? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
important. Okay, and in general, like, so you said, like, yeah, of course you get disciplined, physically, right, by your superiors if you break the rules.
Yeah.
But what about like any conflict between soldiers? Like, do people do some of them some of them bullies? Like, are there some fights between soldiers and so on?
There was this funny story actually. Like, so two of my squad mates got into a bit of a scuffle, right? And one of them had got a scar on his neck due to like him being strangled, I guess. So those two got caught, and the punishment they earned was that they get to sleep together, naked, on one bed, for a week straight. Kind of homoerotic, if you ask me.
Yeah.
and they just basically kind of get used to it. And when the AO was on platoon guard duty, right? When he did the wake up calls, then he first came into our room and said, "Wake up, you two lovebirds."
Does that generally tend to work and like kind of stop people from, getting into
No,
brawls?
it's just pretty humorous, right? And the absurdity of it just, I assume, loosens up the tension. Those two are pretty cool nowadays. I wouldn't say friends, but they are cool with each other.
Right. And I guess because you're all like you said before, sharing this experience together, you're struggling together. Perhaps it kind of like, creates more unity, right, than disunity.
Yeah.
Like, what advice would you give to like the guys that are gonna go into the army, like to avoid conflict, to avoid just have a pretty good experience, right, to get the most out of it, right? Like, what would your advice be?
Well, I would say, just with anything though, even in life, I would say give up your pride, right? But, like, don't be the one like starting the fight, but if it does start, be sure to end it.
Yeah, that's some good advice there. All right, moving on to like equipment. That's the fun stuff, right? Equipment, weapons,
Yeah.
machinery, and stuff like that. So, like, where did most of your equipment come from? Like, what style? Is it like a Russian sort of style? Is it a kind of American style? What would you describe it as?
Geez, we're treading into dangerous waters here of national secrecy, but I'll try to speak. So, the standard issue weaponry is the AK-47, obviously, because you see it in parades and stuff like that, and all with even helicopters and trucks and like that. They're usually Russian, still well maintained though, and we do have Western weaponry though, but it is usually given out to special forces.
Interesting. And when you talk about the AK, like, is that the old AK, like the AK-47, the one with the wooden stock? Yeah,
it's 47.
Okay, interesting. And what kind of like uniforms do you wear? Is it like more of a Soviet style uniform, or is it like, because I can see from that pattern that it's kind of like an American style.
Well, the
uniform.
digital pattern, right?
Yeah.
I've heard that it is the international standard for the all military units and all military installations around the world. So we have taken steps to become much more international. So now we have like this digital pattern along with this combat boot and hat. Yeah.
Okay. So you're referring to the digital pattern in the camouflage of your sort of different types of gear.
Yeah, pretty much.
And what was gonna say? So how many different uniforms do you have? You've got like a parade uniform. You've got like a sort of like standard issue.
So you have your army green, obviously. Then you have like, well, what's the term? There's this other green uniform, like kind of parade-ish, right? And then you obviously have the parade uniform, which is white. And those three are the usual uniforms. Conscripts only have army green.
And you have one set.
Yeah.
Okay. How?
Well, you get issued two army green uniforms, right? One for winter and one for summer.
What's the kind of difference between the two?
Well, the winter one being the hat is different. You have, I don't know if you've seen it. There's this fluffy hat, right? And you have your standard army green, but have like warming underneath, and you have one extra pants underneath, and your boots have like wool inside to keep it warm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's pretty effective uniform,
Well,
like to combat against the cold?
It is what it is, but you do have to wear like extra socks and stuff like that.
Right.
Take the measures yourself, you know.
And the fluffy hat that you mentioned is like that kind of Russian style hat, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
okay.
that one. And it's tied on the up, and when you loosen up the tie and put it down, it looks like a Russian Oshaka, right?
Right.
The one they wear on tanks.
Right.
The year. Yeah.
Ushanka, you said, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Right. And what about talk about like headgear and stuff? Like, what about the helmets? Like, what type of helmets do you wear? Is it like a Kevlar helmet? Is it like an old school, like Soviet type helmet?
It's an old school Soviet helmet, right? Like made out of for the metal. God, it's horrible.
Right.
It felt heavy at first, but then afterwards you get used to it.
Right. Is it kind of like, I guess, apart from it being heavy, is it comfortable, or is it kind of like just?
I wouldn't say it's comfortable, but I assume it gets the job done.
Right.
And officers have like a more modern helmet, you know.
The kind that you would see like on an American soldier or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Those kind of, yeah, the same style. Interesting. Okay, and your uniforms are maintained like how like, you know, do you clean them every day? I'm assuming you have to, right?
Well, like cleaning your own uniform is your own responsibility, right? If you want to be a disgusting swine and not clean it, then it is up to you, but you will get scolded for it. We do have a washing machine ourselves, so you get to wash your own clothes, which then again comes back to personal development, right? Maintaining your own clothes. And if you get your clothes like a small rip or something, then you learn how to maintain it yourself if it's something small. We do have like a person who sews the clothing on the unit, but it is usually us who maintain our clothes ourselves.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, on a daily basis, you're kind of, I guess, you know, like dirtying your clothes, right? Because you're doing PT, you're doing all these different like types of training, right? So they're getting dirty, right? So you need to. How often are you kind of like?
Well, I personally wash it like every 2 weeks. And you can like ask your platoon guard if you can clean it for permissions. Yeah.
Okay. And there's like one washing machine per like sort of like accommodation per barrack.
Yeah, we only have one, so you usually just there are like 3 to 4 people washing it all at once.
Okay. And like, how do they make? Do you have someone like a kind of like an army tailor, like the person who sews,
Yeah.
right? They kind of make sure that your clothes kind of fit, right? So
No, not really. We do have like a supply of clothes, and you can mix and match to see what fits. But usually, when get our next order of uniforms, right? They get our own measurements, and then we order our clothes according to that measurements.
And this is all provided by the army, yeah? You don't have to pay for it.
No, everything's paid for the army.
Excellent. Nice. And do you guys have the that sort of very Russian-looking sort of casual wear, the one that looks like a navy sort of like sailor's shirt, the one with the white and blue stripes, horizontal, that you see a lot of like
No.
old school guys wearing? No.
Not really. But we were supposed to like be issued T-shirts, but we didn't. So we basically got it from our own families.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. All right, and coming back to the weapon, so you said you had an AK. Like, what kind of other weapons? You don't have to like divulge any sort of like army secrets or anything. But I mean, do you have like pistols, like grenades? Like, do you train with machine guns and all these kinds of things?
The whole thing, right? Usually it's Soviet, but yeah, we do have the whole thing.
Okay, interesting. And how often do you train with weapons?
Well, we shot like 3 times, probably, I would say.
So in the whole like sort of like, I guess, year more or less, they'll shoot around 3 times.
The whole year.
Oh, that's interesting. Like, why do you think that it's not more frequent than that?
Yeah, we're going to dangerous territories with this one, so let's leave it at that.
Fair enough. I guess it could be expensive as well, right? Like, I mean, ammunition costs money, right? So.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, and how were weapons part of your daily routine? I mean, not about the shooting, but did you carry those? Did every single one of you have a rifle? And you had it with you all the time?
Yeah, issued AKs, right? And the one thing they taught us was that your weapon is your second life, right? If you lose your weapon, then it basically means you're dead, right? If you're dead, then which means you're also dead. So you have 2 lives: your gun and you. So we're supposed to love and care for our weapons as we're caring for our own lives.
So you had it with you all the time, like whatever you were doing, whatever training you were doing, you always had to carry it with you, right?
Yeah, on field training, we were supposed to basically sleep with our own guns, right? Like basically hugging, kissing, or whatever. And sometimes they tried to like take our guns away while we were sleeping. It's basically training, right?
Uh-huh.
Just imagine you're placed in like a time of war, and then what if some spy comes in and takes away your gun and then cuts your throat while you're sleeping, right?
Did they try to do that to you?
Once.
Yeah.
But nah.
Were they successful?
No.
All right. Nice.
I'm too smart for that.
Were they successful in getting anyone else's?
They got like guns from 3 to 4 people.
So what was the punishment for getting?
There's this fun thing called reloading an AK, right? So when you hit someone with the butt of your AK, the bolt carrier basically reloads back on itself, and then the gun reloads. We call it gun reloading. It's a fun punishment. You can do it on someone else's back and on chest. Chest one hurts real bad, trust me.
So that's another thing that you should avoid, is to let them take your gun away from you during the training, yeah? Avoid getting...
You keep your gun with all times. It's your second life.
That's cool. And so you guys are all very quickly accustomed to maintaining, right, that rifle as well, right? So you have that discipline every day, right?
Yeah, you learn how to handle your weapon, take care of it, and well maintain it.
And like, what about, you were saying that you were kind of like training in explosives. Again, no need for any sensitive information, but like that seems like really sort of dangerous work, right?
Yeah.
So like how after how much time do they start to introduce these ideas, these concepts, train you like that and give you access to explosives?
Theory, we do theory training and practical training, right? The theory training happened for like a month, and then like practical training happened while we were on field training, right? And on field, right, where we're training with explosives, there is a work safety officer, right, with us at all times. So yeah, I guess we're pretty safe, but then again, it is dangerous. We are working with explosives.
So you enjoyed that type of work? You
There's
said,
this like a primal thing in all of us, right? Like when in, I guess in men, obviously, when we like witness destruction, it just does something to us, right?
so what kind of things did you get to blow up and demolish?
I blew up trees, bricks, gasoline, and a bunch of stuff, really.
Nice. Excellent. So, and also, by the way, your kind of like mine disposal, right?
Yeah.
That's really sort of useful, and I think could add a lot of value in many different theaters, right? I mean, like, there's a big problem around the world in many different countries.
Yeah.
Sort of like, like mines that are affecting civilian populations, right? That still haven't been disposed of.
I was surprised to know that there are like still active minefields in the world, still today. And even now, the wep- technology for weapons are still improving now. Last I heard, there are like landmines that are now made with plastic so that they're not found by metal detectors.
So are you kind of like an expert in using the metal detector and then kind of like just removing live evidence? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, we're taught how to, like, one thing is that once you've activated a landmine, it is basically impossible to like legitimately disarm. The only way you disarm it is by blowing it up.
Right.
Yeah.
So but you have to locate it first, I guess, and you kind of dig.
Locate
That's the
it.
whole thing of digging around it, and then you attach it kind of like a string, like a piece of
Yeah.
string to it.
Like when you see like there's this like claw thing, right? Maybe you've seen it on Batman or something. They throw it on rooftops and then climb up. We
Right.
use something like that to drag the mines away.
Right. Yeah. Super dangerous work. And how much time does it take to? I guess now, would you say that you're kind of like an expert, or more or less very comfortable and
I
very
would
knowledgeable?
say competent. I would say that I'm an expert.
That's an amazing like kind of skill to have, man. I think you can do a lot of like a lot of good with that. As part of like NGOs, like kind of mine
Yeah.
removal stuff.
Maybe. Yeah, I've never heard about doing anything like that, but you gave me an idea.
There are projects. I mean, I know because I worked in Cambodia a few years back, and they had a lot of people that were engaged, and there's still some in Vietnam as well. But like Laos, Cambodia, there are a
But
lot.
back in the Vietnam War era, where
From those days, and also from the post Vietnam, like the post American War, the Vietnamese went into Cambodia and sort of like occupied Cambodia, and there are a lot of mines left over from that part as well of the. It's called the third war. The first one with the French, second one with the Americans, and the third one is Vietnam occupying Cambodia. And like,
I've never actually heard of that. That's interesting.
yeah, it's super interesting. We can talk about that one if you want next time. We can hang out and I'll tell you all about that one.
Yeah, sure, man.
I lived in Vietnam and Cambodia for like 5 years, so I did some research on that aspect of the history.
Have you encountered in Vietnam with ladies with?
Oh, that's in Thailand. Ladyboys, yeah?
Yeah, yeah, the one in Hangover 2, right?
Yes, yeah.
You know what? You know what Thailand is famous for?
Yes.
We actually watched all 3 parts of The Hangover when I was in the army.
Nice.
Can you? We were watching that particular scene when our NCO came in and just basically said, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, what are you guys doing? Yeah.
And he didn't say nothing, just walked away.
But that I can reassure you, that's in Thai. If you want to see some of those things, yeah, definitely in Thailand, not in Vietnam. I think a bit in Cambodia, maybe the spillover from the culture from Thailand, but yeah, it's a Thai thing. I don't know why they do that there. I haven't researched that topic yet.
That is knowledge, alright. I wouldn't say it's useful, but it is knowledge.
Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, for sure. It could be very useful if ever you go to Thailand and you decide to mess with the locals, But yeah, I mean, that's one place that I would definitely. Thailand is a great place to go, and I mean, for your purposes, probably to go and train kickboxing, like Muay Thai. That could be a great skill to have, in your
Yeah,
repertoire for as a soldier?
yeah, cool.
On that note, did you do any sort of like
Martial
hand-to-hand
arts?
combat training in
Oh,
the army?
hand to hand. So our unit specializes in engineering, like I said before, right? Not like legitimate combat. So it like actual combat training took a bit backseat, I guess. My friend though, who's in, like I said, in artillery, said he was training in hand-to-hand combat. And one of my other friends who got discharged the year I went in service said he actually trained in hand-to-hand combat and taught me a few tricks too.
Nice, nice. That's really good to know, right? That's
Yeah.
very useful. The self-defense in general. Yeah, maybe like when you go back in, you'll probably have more opportunities for doing that.
Yeah, but the things we learn is nothing compared to what the special forces do.
Did you sort of have any experience with the special forces? Did they come and like train you in anything, or did you speak with any of them?
Our God, what would I say? Like the chief of administration command was in special forces. He basically told us a few stories of his time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff, right? Like useful.
Like I would say it's almost like film. Or,
Yeah, I won't ask, man. I guess that's pretty sensitive information when you get to the special ops stuff and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But okay, so carrying on with the equipment and machinery, like did you learn, or did anyone around you learn how to drive any sort of like any tanks, any APCs, any jeeps, or anything like that?
we're engineering in it, so we don't have that kind of thing.
What about like trucks, like army, like in engineering, maybe you have like army trucks?
Nope. We had like a certified driver, so he was, and then he ended up becoming like a personal chef food
All right.
to the administration command
Okay.
major. Yeah.
That's pretty cool, right? That would be really cool to learn how to drive all these different like pieces of
My man,
machinery.
I met up with him at midnight, right? And basically came like red eye. I asked him what happened, and he said, I went into the commander's house and listened to him argue with his wife for 30 minutes straight, and then came out. And then I got him vodka. And then we went back into base. Man, I need to sleep.
That's the chauffeur, yeah?
Yeah.
And he was also a conscript like you guys, but
Yeah.
he was just like, but at what point, like how was he chosen, or why was he chosen to
Well,
perform that
because
duty?
he drove, of course.
He already had a license for a regular car,
Yeah.
and then they just said, all right, mate, just get in the truck.
Yeah, and worked as a mechanic before, so.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Did he seem like he was kind of enjoying his position?
Obviously, no.
Yeah, who wouldn't, right? Yeah. See, that's another perk of joining the army. That might be a good piece of advice, actually. Maybe like to maybe pass your test and like do something like that before you join. Like it might give you
Yeah,
more
your
opportunities.
certain skills you have will be beneficial to you in the army. So if you are good with computers, then you, even in like basic training though, you don't have to go out on PT. You could just stay in there and do computer stuff for your commanding officers. And if you're a car mechanic, then you can work on cars all day due to your profession, carpentry, electricity, and stuff like that. If you have any practical skills, then it could be applied to you.
Excellent stuff. Super good advice. Did you train, or did you see any like foreign soldiers when you were on base? Like, did you train with any American soldiers, any Russians, or any foreign, I guess,
No.
military service people? Okay. Because yeah, I heard that there was like sort of like there's the Mongolian military has a like pretty strong relationship with a lot of different armed forces around the world, like not just the US, but like also Russia.
Oh, that's a fucking
No
hell.
worries. Do you want like another drink or something instead?
No, thank you.
No problem. Do you want some water?
I'm pretty good right
Oh.
now, but cool. Yeah.
If ever you need, mate, just take this.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's not like the base here, I guess, right? So like they don't allow smoking. But I heard because I went to the Mongolian Military Museum, which is a great museum, by the way. Have you been there?
No, I read about it.
It's great. I really recommend you and anyone else sort of listening to this to go there. It's in Ulaanbaatar. It's not that far away from the E-Mart than the Chinggis Hotel on Chinggis
Oh,
Avenue.
really?
Yeah, really
Damn,
not
I
that
gotta
far.
check it out.
Yeah, and they have like a lot of really interesting information from, I guess, prehistoric times like in Mongolia to the most recent sort of deployments in Iraq, Afghanistan, and stuff. Super interesting. And I learned there that Mongolia, the Mongolian army was quite active in those different theaters like Iraq, Afghanistan, etc., and had a pretty strong connection with the U.S. Army. But they also have a strong connection with the Russians, because recently, there were pictures on Reddit and other social media of the
Yeah.
Russian joint military exercise, right?
Yeah,
A few days, like a week ago. Or something.
I've heard there was a lot of posts on Facebook saying that the Russians are now invading Mongolia.
Yes.
And I read about it and thought, man, these people must be retarded or something.
Yeah, absolutely. That's true, but you didn't get any experience with any of these guys, right?
No,
When you were serving anyway. Maybe later you'll have that.
not
option.
really.
And okay, yeah, and so what do you feel about that? What do you feel about the connection between, like, do you think it's what do you think about joint military exercises with Russians and stuff like that? So you don't agree with those local Mongolians who really hate this kind of like connection?
Well, the joint military exercises are part of the Mongolian politics, right? Because we try to be diplomatic with every country in the world, and you see us having joint exercises with Japan, United States, and many other countries in the world actually, and all of those basically supports our diplomatic relationship with those said countries.
And what about China? Do you know if you have any joint exercise with them? Or?
I don't know for certain, but I do know that some officers are very educated in China.
Interesting.
But we do have a little bit of disdain, I would say. We still do have like political diplomacy with China.
Right.
We try to maintain.
Interesting. So you have some specialists going over to train in China. So in terms of people's opportunities, like the one that you're taking, going to West Point, do you get to choose where you want to go? Like, you decided you wanted to go to West Point, but you could have maybe gone to the Russian academy, or you could have chosen somewhere else.
Well, West Point is regarded as one of the elite military academies in the world. So if I want to become an officer, why not go to the most prestigious one? And 2, I've always wanted to see America, so why not? 3, with all military academies, it's probably free, but yeah, West Point is free. You get a world-class education for free, so why not, right?
Absolutely. I think that's probably the best choice, right? Anyway,
Yeah.
Might as well do it with the best, right?
Yeah.
Go for the best option. Good man. Okay, and all right, let's talk more about what you learned. Like, so you kind of mentioned different skills, and not just, I guess, sort of military skills, practical skills, like personal skills, I guess, in terms of personal development. But which skills did you learn that you think you will be able to use in sort of like civilian life, like apart from, I guess, the discipline and those types of like mental fortitude and stuff like that?
Okay, let's see. Well, since I didn't choose the vocational options, I can't say for certain. But I have read on the papers that, so you do know there's this communications unit in Ulaanbaatar, right? So conscripts who have served there have the opportunity to work in telecommunications companies like Mobicom or somewhere around that.
Nice. Yeah, that could be a really good opportunity, right, for someone interested in that field.
Yeah.
A good way to get your foot in the door, right, to those kinds of companies. Okay, and what was your like most memorable experience? If you had to just pick one.
Man, there were like so many things, but I would say the field training is really fun. I wouldn't say fun though, because I hated being there, but like a part of me felt like I was a real soldier, going through the hardships and learning actual applicable combat skills. And so afterwards, we did like nighttime shooting training, right? So like on the afternoon, that afternoon, we had like a final shooting examinations, right? Taken by the general staff of the Mongolian Armed Forces. They gave us 6 bullets and told us to shoot, right? And I shot the 6 bullets and went to see 4 bullets were on 10, right? 2 bullets on 9. Like, really good score. And our NCO looked at us and looked at me and said, "I'm gonna take your gun after you get discharged." and that was like a really good compliment. And then we ran and went to check our gun, right? So for safety, of course. And our squad NCO was there at the gun checkpoint and basically asked us, "So, did any of you boys score?" "Yes, sir." "Hey, Commander, me. Uh, how well did you shoot?" 4 bullets on 10, 2 bullets on 9, sir." God damn, that's what I'm talking about. Give me a fist bump. That was cool. And then at that night, the squad commander came into our kid and asked, "Who has the best gun?" And all my squad mates basically looked and said, it's mine, right? And then he took my gun and went into the night shooting. Night shooting is probably one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. When you see something and you think to yourself, "Man, I will never get to witness something as great as this," right? It was like that. So it starts with them shooting flares, right? And every bullet they have is like a tracer bullet that you can see at night. And it literally looked like something out of Star Wars, right? It was amazing. And then afterwards, the next morning we did like a battalion shooting training, right? There were like little mines blowing up and like fires, and we were shooting, and it was pretty awesome. And then afterwards we did like a 60-kilometer march, right? That was terrible, I would say, but it is really fun. And I think about that march a lot, right? And if I was a civilian, would I be able to do something like this? Maybe I would have quit. And I kept asking myself, have I really changed? And that march was like a test for me, right? Yeah.
That was like kind of the most memorable, sort of the highlight, I guess, of that whole like experience.
Yeah.
Nice. Sort of war simulation, yeah?
Yeah.
Like that. Excellent stuff. And what was the funniest thing that happened during your service? Does anything stand out as being like...
Something funny, I would say. Oh god. Okay, let me think. Right. So there's so many things I can't like pick one way. So let me just talk about the things that popped into my mind.
Sure.
So our platoon sergeant, right? One night when we were like coming out of dinner and stood in formation in the bathroom, right? And then he basically told us, "Okay, listen up, you dirty dickwads. Don't put your bread in your pocket. Like seriously, you could get fleas. For real." And then he told like one private to come out of the formation, right? And they come out. "All right, show us your pockets." And then my man hesitated for a bit and then dug out his pockets. And then out comes a whole bread. It's disgusting. Like literally think about it. Some people like put their like shoe polish and their napkin things where they wipe their shoe, cigarettes, even candy. Imagine putting your bread in there and then eating it. It's disgusting, right? And then the same dude, like a month ago, right? We were watching a film, and then we sat down, and we had like instead of bread, we had like these small. Oh, what was it? Have you ever had waft?
What?
Waft. It's like these small pastry things, right?
No, I've
Pastry
never had that.
balls.
It's not a dumpling. It's a pastry, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, I've not had that.
So we sat down to watch a movie, and then this the small sound of something dropping. And then we all look down and see the same dude we just talked before, right? Like these three small pastry balls dropping. And then just quietly taking them back and putting them back in his pockets. God, it's disgusting.
Sounds like that guy had a bit of an eating disorder or something, right? Or he just kind of loved to snack.
I would say it's just pathetic.
Oh, right. You're a bit harsh, man. Like, why do you think that?
Yeah, I have so many horrible experiences with that man.
Fair enough. Yeah, he wanted his popcorn, right, or the equivalent of a snack during the movie. So he.
Yeah, but like, why though? Why not just put it in the bag or something? Just put it in his pocket. Then.
Yeah.
What if he gets fleas, right, and then just jumps to the rest of us? It's disgusting, right?
Yeah, it's irresponsible. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. Yeah, that is funny. And okay, I guess like now you can tell me as much as you want about this particular topic because I guess it's kind of like it's out there, it's in the press and all that kind of stuff. I guess it's not controversial. I would say it's semi-controversial. But what's this issue about the use of conscripts as labor for non-military projects? Can you give me just a general insight?
Think, right? We are conscripted into the military to learn the military arts, to how to fight, and then I think there's this like sentiment of viewing soldiers as laborers and not even as human beings. No, I wouldn't say it's like everyone, but there's this like some sort of idea in people that soldiers aren't viewed as humans. And we, like personally, went out to do like stuff like that too. Pretty much.
So, I mean, you guys were fine with that, right? You just considered it as part of your military service, right?
Well, it sucks, but it is what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, that's fine. So it seems to me like it's just people that I guess are not really sort of appreciative of what really military service is about, right? Which is basically serving your country. So if that means, building a base, then it's building a base. If it means building a bridge, it's building a bridge.
Like, think, right? We have no problem serving for if it's for the betterment of the nation. It is what it is. But serving for someone like private, right? For someone's own personal gain, isn't that just kind of weird?
Yeah.
I'm not here to do your like personal bidding or whatever. I'm here to serve my country and become a soldier, not your like personal worker mate or whatever.
But that's like a kind of a few cases, right? Like a minority of cases. What you guys were doing, your projects were like just kind of general construction, right? General development.
Yeah, it is. The cases like this like happen.
Yeah. But you would say that it's maybe the exception rather than the rule.
Well, ours was like approved and actually ordered by the general staff by the instruction of the government. So yeah, it is sanctioned. For working for someone's personal, private reasons, that's just kind of weird.
So that's what kind of people disagree with, yeah? And do you get, like, in a general sense, paid as a conscript? You get a salary?
Well, actually, yeah, we do get paid. Like, a part of it comes to us by cash so we can use it on whatever we need. Usually it's cigarettes. Okay, it's only cigarettes pretty much. And the rest goes into like a bank account that we get after we get discharged.
Okay. And I mean, if you don't mind me asking, like, how much do you get paid?
Like almost 50K Yeah.
per month.
a month.
Okay. All right. And that's enough to like kind of buy your kind of cigarettes and other different things that you use to
Yeah, I would
increase
say
the comfort.
it's pretty much enough. Yeah.
Okay. And is there a shop on the base that you go to buy those cigarettes, or how do you manage to get these
No,
things?
not really though. We give our money to our NCOs and they get it for us.
Right. Okay. You give them your sort of shopping list, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool. Okay, so people are happy to just kind of like, like save their money as well at the same time, right? Like, or spend it on other things. So what about other, I guess, costs? Like, what are the other things that people would spend their money on apart from
No,
cigarettes?
extra. I would say candy, drinks, whatever they need. So maybe extra socks, shoe polish, and then stuff like that.
Right.
Candle, toilet paper. Importantly, toilet paper.
What's up with toilet paper?
It's it's an important commodity.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it runs out fast, right?
Yeah, if it
Um,
runs out fast, then you have toilet paper, which, like, automatically, if you have cigarettes when no one else has cigarettes, and toilet paper if no one else has toilet paper, which makes you a very powerful person.
yeah. Yeah. Nice. And I mean, like when you leave the army, like, do you feel like you have a pretty nice amount like saved up that's been put in there for you?
I would say it's a pretty hefty amount, right?
Like enough to maybe start a bit like a small business or buy a motorbike or something like that, or
I would say like it does help, right? And if you have participated in the national development projects, then you get paid like a lot, and it goes up to like 2-3 million, which is more than enough to buy a car.
absolutely,
Yeah.
That's great. So you can, my point is, or my kind of question was like, you can actually do something with that money like that's been
Yeah.
saved during that time when you leave.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So you can maybe even like invest it in a course, like go to university or do something like.
Yeah, sure. It's up to you. Like if you want to spend it on booze, it's your problem.
Yeah, beers and vodka and hookers, yeah?
Yeah. A bunch of hookers and cocaine.
Yeah. Is there cocaine in Mongolia? I thought there was none here, man.
If you know the right person, of course.
I guess.
But you haven't heard it from me.
No, yeah. No worries. Regarding leave, how often were you able to
Well,
sort that out?
it's getting a permission to leave is like an award, right? So you maybe win it, big competition or whatever. Or have you been, if you've been an upstanding soldier, then you get a leave sometimes, right?
And like how much time would that be for, like what's the.
So the maximum being like 3 days.
And during that time, what do people do generally? Like do they go home to their family? Do they have enough
They,
time?
they go to their home. Sometimes they drink. And just it's up to you, you know. Like for that 3 days, you are free to do whatever you want.
Right. Did you manage to get any when you were in the army?
Yeah. I went home and spent some time with my family. Met up with some friends. Played video games, obviously.
And how much time were you? How long had you been in the army before you got that leave?
Let's see, I don't know, like 3-4 months, perhaps. Yeah.
All right, interesting stuff. What happens if you don't come to the back? What happens if you don't come back to the base?
You are basically regarded as a deserter,
Uh-huh.
and military police is involved. Basically, and you're screwed.
Yeah. And okay. And all right. So coming back to like, or like to the I guess we're coming to the final phase, right, of your training. So did you actually sort of officially finish the service when you were discharged? Was there like a ceremony? Did you get a certificate?
No, there was a ceremony for the two of us, but we did get our military certificate, got our personal IDs back, got our civilian clothes back. Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. I mean, how did you feel when that happened?
It's, you just can't believe it, you know. Like every great and not great things you went through, and it's all over, and you get to be a free person again.
And how did your your fellow conscripts? I know you said that they were kind of jealous and stuff like that. How did they feel? Did you get to say goodbye?
Yeah, I got to say goodbye, and they gave me like a few phone numbers, right? And I wrote them on my hand. It's gone now because I took a shower. But they gave me a few phone numbers. Some of them were their family members. Some of them were their girlfriends. They gave me like what they wanted to say, like pass a message on, right? And afterwards I called their phone numbers and said what they wanted to say.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you were saying that there's no mobile phones or laptops allowed, right?
Yeah.
So it's actually, you know what, like to be honest, for especially for youngsters, right? Like I think that's great for them to go through a bit of a tech detox, right?
Yeah.
It's healthy.
To be not dependent on phones. Like I personally was very dependent on technology.
Uh-huh.
And even like after like literally getting into the base, right, and my personal items taken, I got on the bed and like by reflex checked my phone, right. That's how bad it was.
So do you think it was a good experience for you? Yeah, to kind of like be away from all that for at least
Yeah,
a year, like around a year.
pretty much.
Great. That's another benefit. One more to add to that
Yeah.
long list that we've just
It
benefits.
just keeps going on, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
man, the gift that keeps on giving, you know. So what about your superiors? Like, how did they feel? What did they say when you were discharged?
Like I said before, right, the other squad commander gave me his shoulder patch and told me to become a great officer. Most of our commanding officers basically told us goodbye. But for me, though, they told me to become a great officer, and they wished me luck.
Do you think you'll see them again when you come back?
Well, it's a small world, isn't it?
That's true.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. So, I mean, do you have any regrets? Like, you know, kind of I guess this could be more advice that we could give to people that are going to go into the service and as conscripts. Like, what do you feel that you should have done during your time as a conscript that you did not do? If you could do it all over again, like what would you do?
I have no regrets. Nothing.
Good, man. That's good. Yeah, that's a good thing.
Live without regrets, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so yeah, you gave me so much like really, really interesting information that can really like can really paint a picture of what that experience is like, you know. So like, do you have any sort of other things that you would like to add?
Can't say for certain. No. Like only if you ask them.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, direct question, direct answer, right? You're
Yeah.
too used to the army now, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's fine. Yeah, listen, like that's great. Like I guess just give us a little bit more details about your future plans. So you said you're going to go to West Point. You're going to come back to Mongolia to be like a career soldier or an officer. Do you have any like specific things that you want to sort of like specialize in?
Well, I personally want to become like a cybersecurity officer, right? IT, and then afterwards maybe become infantry officer, perhaps, because it was advised to me by the weapons officer, who I mentioned before. And later on, maybe I could go on like peacekeeping missions as an officer, which could open up the door to me actually joining the United Nations as a representative of the Mongolian Armed Forces, and I could just stay there, you know, or maybe later on become like a defense attaché and be appointed to a different country. Yeah,
It seems that you got it all figured out, you know. That's a
maybe,
very detailed plan.
but life isn't always what it seems. You know, some things could happen, and all we can do is just figure out a way around it. You know.
And you know, whatever happens, like, you know, with the skills that you're gonna sort of, you know, acquire, you can have so many opportunities, right? You can do so many different things, and
Yeah,
that's the good thing about it.
I'm at a point right now where everything is right in front of me, right? Anything I can choose, Like there's so many opportunities, so many options, right?
It's really really good, yeah. And that's all thanks to, I guess, your time in the army, right? Your conscription experience.
Yeah, I would say the army basically changed my point of view in life. Like before that, was very lost. I felt directionless, and the army basically helped me to figure that out for myself, and gave me the strength to go at it.
That's really really useful. That's the thing that a lot of youngsters are lacking these days. It's just direction, it's guidance, it's inspiration.
Yeah.
It's being in this kind of like controlled environment where you're being provided with opportunities rather than just like kind of left to your own devices and told, well, you can be anything you want to be. But like for a kid, that's just such an overwhelming abstract thought. It makes no sense, really.
And the army basically allowed me to settle in these thoughts, gave me a lot of time to think, figure out my options, and I'm very thankful for that.
Great, man. You went from unclear to clear, from directionless to full of direction, right? With a very strong direction sense. That's great, man. So I think that's great. You've given us really sort of fresh insight into conscription in the Mongolian Armed Forces. You're a gentleman, dude. You're smart. You're super talented. And I think, you're going to go very, very far in your chosen career path. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, man. You're welcome. It's my pleasure.